Welcome back to JUDE'S. On interviews, we have got Jude's journey. Thanks for coming on, Jude. How are you?
No problem, and I'm all right. I'm as good as can be in these unprecedented times, just trying to keep busy with doing different stuff on the YouTube channel and schoolwork and that. But yeah, I'm all right.
So we're just going to ask you questions about Villa and your career aspirations and all of that good stuff. So, Alex, if you want to get us started off.
Yeah, okay. What inspired you to want to become a journalist?
Okay, so for me, my real passion is football. I've always had a massive interest in football, but I've got something called cerebral palsy, so it affects the right side of my body. So I was really enjoying doing football, but I was never really going to be involved with much playing football. So I remember going into secondary school, and I sort of had to find another way of get involved with something I love. So this is when, and this time my school was starting a TV channel up, and I just started getting involved in that. And then from then on, I started recording football matches for them. And then I started to take to YouTube and just voice my opinions on football stuff. And yeah, it's been the journey I've been on so far has been crazy. And I've enjoyed every moment of it. Just another way for me to get involved with something I love and still prove that you can still do something you love even if you've got a disability.
Yeah, definitely.
Joe?
So how many times has someone sang Hey Jude to you when you were interviewing them?
You know what? I think you'll be the first person to mention that. No one has ever
Never?
mentioned that to me. Never? No?
Oh, that'll be the first thing I thought of, mate.
Yeah, it's people mention it to me all the time, but I've never actually had anyone actually mention it to me in an interview. But yeah, first time for everything, isn't there, mate?
There is.
So you often go about on like your intro saying my journey into the media world. What do you think is going to be your journey into the media world?
Okay, so at the moment, what I'm trying to do is, I'm sure you guys will know that the media industry is a very tough industry to get into, and it's a very, competitive industry. So all I'm trying to do now is get as much experience as possible by trying to get as many interviews as possible, and that will hopefully help me in, my career path and what I want to do. So if you put maybe my dream goal would be become a sports reporter and, report on football matches and sports in general, and, just do something that I love. I'd love to work for Sky Sports, but that's obviously a long, long way away. But you got to dream big, haven't you?
Yeah. Obviously, you've interviewed quite a few football stars. Do you think they were more down to earth than you expected?
Yeah, definitely. I think every person that I've interviewed has always given me their time. They've been very kind to me, and I think a lot of the time there's always, especially in football, that people forget that they're just a normal person, a normal down-to-earth person, rather than a footballer on a football pitch. And they're a lot more than just a footballer on a football pitch. And some of the people I've interviewed, like Jack Grealish, first of all, to be able to interview one of my heroes, Jack Grealish, was an amazing feeling. But just the way he spent the night with me and just gave me those 5 minutes, I'll always remember that. And really good with me. And yeah, every single person I've interviewed has been amazing with me, and that's why I keep saying that this journey has just been unreal for me, because the people who have given up their time to chat with me, just amazing, really, and it will obviously help me in later years to come. Just one example there.
Yeah.
Jurgen Klopp. I went to a press conference with Jurgen Klopp. It's actually Liverpool versus Everton, the pre-press conference, and I remember him walking past at Melwood, and I just thought, I just after a quick picture with him, and he sat down with me for about a good 2 to 3 minutes and just had a lovely chat with me, and it was a brilliant day. That.
Is he a nice guy, despite being a Liverpool manager?
Yeah, you know what? He's really nice. He's really down to earth. He's really funny, and he's just a great person. I remember listening to him in the press conference, listening to him speak and talk. As much as the Everton fan probably won't like to hear it, but yeah, he's a brilliant person. Yeah. What I've got of him anyway, that is.
What's been the highlight of your career so far?
My highlight, you say career, I wouldn't say it's, well, you could say it's a career, but I'm not quite there yet as a career. But I'd say the highlights, there's many highlights in my career. I say I really enjoyed interviewing Jack Grealish. I spent a whole night at Aston Villa. We won, it was versus Leeds, and we won 1-0. I interviewed Steve Bruce, who was obviously the manager at the time, and Jack Grealish afterwards. It was quite a funny fact because I remember them saying before the match, after I interviewed Steve Bruce, they said you can interview Jack Grealish as long as we win. And I remember it was what we were 1-0 up, and it was like the 89th minute, and Leeds were piling on the pressure, and I'm thinking we better win, Villa. This is the only chance I'm going to get to interview Jack Grealish, and if you don't win, thankfully they won, and I got that opportunity to interview Grealish. So yeah, I really enjoyed interviewing Grealish. I also enjoyed interviewing Tony Bellew, Evertonian, of course. Just to get it was the first time he spoke after his retirement, so that was really good to get an insight into Tony's career. And also more recently, I'm not sure if you've seen it, my most recent one, Steven Gerrard, obviously current Rangers manager and Liverpool legend. So hopefully I'm not hurting you too much by mentioning Liverpool too much in this video.
He's dying inside.
But yeah, just to interview Steven Gerrard, a player of that strength, and obviously current Rangers manager. Really good, and I'm surprised with how well the support has been from all the Rangers fans so far. So yeah, I'd say those are my highlights, but I've enjoyed every single interview because they all propose different outcomes, and I just find it fascinating that you can sit down with a sports personality and just have a chat with them. A bit like we're doing now.
Yeah.
Scousers must like you then.
Well, yeah, I think I've been lucky enough to interview some brilliant people. So, yeah.
So I saw your video when you went to Soccer Saturday. Was that a surreal moment for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's every football fan's dream. I think every Saturday, we're all missing it at the moment. Every Saturday between 12 and 5 o'clock, Jeff Stelling and the boys come on your screen. We're all glued to it. Well, I am definitely anyway. And yeah, just to go to Soccer Saturday studios to, experience how it all works, what the studios look like, and also sit down with Alan McInally, formerly of Aston Villa, Celtic and Bayern Munich. I think to sit down with him and have a chat with him about all things media, all things his career was a brilliant experience. And then, of course, to top it all off, I managed to sit down. Well, I was actually watching the show live. Behind the cameras watching the show, and I sat there for about an hour and a half just watching them talk all things football. And then at the very end, I also went into the gallery, which was also another fascinating thing because, yes, it comes on the TV screens, but you would never understand how much effort goes into that to that program. So I went into the gallery and you saw the amount of screens, the amount of people, and I actually really appreciate Jeff Stelling now because all of his time he got someone in his ear telling him what's coming up next. We're going to Villa Park next, we're going to Anfield or whatever, we're going to Barcelona, wherever. So that's just gives you another insight as a football fan and how it all works. And yeah, it was a brilliant day and one I'll never forget. I remember my uncle saying, "You'll be coming back here in a few years' time." I'm like, yeah, I've got a long way to go yet.
No, you can make it easy.
Alex?
Did you ever find it difficult to get famous people to agree to be interviewed?
Well, I'd say I've been very fortunate. I think it's always hard to get, people and get people to, have a chat with you. And that's why I say people have been so good to me because, I'm sure famous people, all the people I've interviewed, they get hundreds of requests a day. And for them to just sit down with me and have a chat has been an amazing person. I'm not going to give away too much how I get them because I think I learned very quickly in the media industry that it's not what you know, it's who you know in the media industry, and I've been very fortunate with that.
Yeah. So do you think Aston Villa have overspent or spent badly at the start of the season?
It's a bit of a tricky one because, in my opinion, it was needed. When we got promoted at the back end of last summer, we had a lot of not deadwood in the squad, but we had a lot of deadwood in terms of Premier League experience. So I think it was needed the amount that we spent. I think I'd have liked to have got a little bit more of Premier League experience in the squad, just to help those, players. I think when you start signing players like Trezeguet, Bjorn Engels, that no one had really heard of before this, there's always going to be a little bit of uncertainty. I think the amount that we'd spent was needed, but I preferred to have got a little bit more experience. In just one example, like Tom Heaton, he's one of experience and done really well. But why couldn't we have done that in every single position on the pitch? Got one in the defence, got one in the midfield, and of course the striker.
Yeah, focused on leaders instead of filling out the squad.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are leaders in that squad, the likes of Tyrone Mings, Tom Heaton, Jack Grealish, but I think we needed that mix of leadership, Premier League experience, and of course a little bit of unknown quantity.
Yeah.
So you've only won 7 games, and do you think football's coming back in June, of course? Do you think you could improve in that period, or do you think you'll still go down?
I don't know, to be honest, because again, it's all up in the air, isn't it, in terms of what's happening with football coming back. The talks about not being no relegation at the moment. There is going to be relegation behind closed doors. I think the one positive about this is that Dean Smith was saying that this is the only time he gets a chance to sit down with a player one-to-one and have a chat about what's gone wrong in their season. So I think if they can use that time wisely, and the players can really look at what's gone wrong this season so far, and Dean Smith to evaluate himself, because of course, don't forget, it's his first season in the Premier League as well, and evaluate what's gone wrong on his side, and hopefully when football does return and when it's safe to do so, we can give it a real go at trying to stay up. Because all I want, if we go down, then so be it. But I prefer us to have a try and really try and stay up and show that passion and leadership. Like we have shown passion and leadership in some games this season, but others it's just been far from it.
Do you think you'll probably stick with journalism like in football, or do you ever think you'll branch out to some other sports? Because I know you were talking earlier about maybe working with Sky.
Yeah, I like Sky is just a dream. I think it's a top in terms of sports reporting. So yeah. I might not get there. I might get there. Who knows? But in terms of sports reporting, the industry is very much, you can't put your eggs all in one basket. So the more experience I can get, the better. So that's why I'm, yes, primarily my football knowledge is probably the best, and probably the best where I'm going to get the best interviews from. But saying that, boxing as well is another. I really love boxing, and I've been fortunate enough to interview a couple of boxers, like I've mentioned. So I think in the media world, you've got to widen your variety and try and get as much experience as possible. And I try not to turn down any interview because, again, it's all experience, as I keep saying.
Yeah. What advice would you give to young people trying to start out in football journalism or sports journalism as a whole? Okay,
so I'd say be yourself. When I first started doing this, I used to have all my questions written down on a piece of paper, and I'd literally just read them. And don't get me wrong, I still do have questions written down now, because you can't do a half an hour video without the questions. But what I try and do is I try and treat it as a conversation, instead of me being like really staged and really, really reporting style, if that makes sense. I just try and treat it as a conversation, so that way it flows better and it's more easy for the viewers to watch as well. I would also say, if you're an aspiring journalist, don't be afraid of knockbacks, because there will be times in the career and in your life that you will be knocked back. People will say no to you. But also, on another note, don't be afraid to ask, because the worst someone can say to you is no. And yes, people have said no to me before. And what you do is you just forget about it. You say, okay, no problem, move on. So if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
So if you were going to map out your journey, say next year, what year are you in now?
I'm in year 10 at the moment.
Year 10. So after high school, what college do you see you going to? University? And then will you go to an apprenticeship or university? What do you think?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and not quite sure yet in terms of what I want to go into. I think I definitely need to go to university and study a course there. So probably say go to university, maybe go to sixth form, but who knows? I think I've got to, knuckle down in terms of whenever we go back to school and get my grades that I need, and then hopefully look on from there.
Yeah.
Who's your favourite boxer? Sorry.
Favourite boxer? Probably going to say, well, I watched the Tyson Fury documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that was brilliant. I think what he's gone through at the moment is, well, not at the moment, but you know what I mean? Like what he's gone through over the years is amazing. And obviously come back and then just to hear about how he talks. Fury, sometimes some people might say he comes across big-headed, but in that documentary, you got a real sense of what he's really about, and I really like that. Also, obviously, fortunate enough to interview Tony Bellew as well, so always got a special place for him in my heart because he's obviously given up his time for me.
Yeah.
In your opinion, where did Villa go wrong this season? Because we've had John McGinn out, haven't we? And that's been a major blow to the team. But
yeah, I think,
is there other issues like player attitudes?
Yeah, I think, injuries have been a problem this year. Well, I don't want to say it's been a problem because, yes, we've had a number of injuries, but you look at the squad depth we've got compared to other Premier League squads and maybe Premier League teams in that bottom six. Our depth in squad is, a lot greater than those teams, in my opinion. However, like I say, we've lacked that little bit of leadership. When things are going wrong, there's no one, apart from Grealish a little bit and Mings, there's no one really to go to. I think defensively as well, we've been a massive problem. I think we've conceded the most goals in the Premier League, if I'm right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, defensively been a massive problem. And also as well, before Wesley was injured, I think we struggled to find a way that suited his play. And I'm really looking forward to when football does return, how Samatta and Wesley can play together up top and if that can work as a partnership.
Yeah, I'd love to see them banging in goals, and we just don't seem to get it as much as we should be for what we spent on them.
Yeah, I think it was always going to be a gamble bringing in a 22 million player who's never been brought to the Premier League before. But what I didn't understand is why, if I'm right in thinking, in Belgium, Wesley was his most successful in a 2, playing alongside someone. So why haven't we adopted that in our playing style to try and suit him as much? Because we've tried numerous things that haven't worked. So why haven't we tried that?
Yeah, surely that'll be the first thing you try.
Yeah, definitely. I think if it's not working, you've got to go to, what's worked for him in other clubs. But hopefully we can see Samatta and Wesley work together up top.
Yeah.
Would you say Dean Smith wants to build the team around Jack Grealish?
I think he's very much about trying to get the team to work together, as bad as it might, not bad as it might sound, but I think he's trying to get the team to work together. But at the same time, everything on a match day, everything goes through Jack Grealish, and if Jack Grealish doesn't perform well, I hate me to say it, but Aston Villa don't perform well. So I think he would want to build the team around a boyhood captain, and obviously grown up to play for Aston Villa as a Villa fan. But the question is, and I hate to say it, how long are we going to have him in a Villa shirt? Because there will be a time where there'll be no Jack Grealish in Aston Villa side, and whenever that may be, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a massive blow to the team, and at the moment he's like almost a mascot, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's gone through the years at Aston Villa, he's gone through that academy, and I saw something, I don't know if you saw it, about an interview with Gabby Bonglaho, and he said, I don't think Jack Grealish will leave. Now, I'd love to see that. I'd love him to stay as long as Gabby Bonglaho stayed. That's music to the Villa fans' ears. But yeah, I just think a player of that strength is always going to be linked with higher clubs. Hopefully, he sees his love for Aston Villa and he's not turned his head by money.
Yeah, but Horihan did say he's too good for the team at the moment, which really upset me.
Yeah, right. I think he's only speaking facts.
Yeah.
But to say that in an interview isn't the right place to say it, and it just creates a lot of questions in the media. And as soon as the media see that, the next thing you'll see is the Sun saying Jack Grealish is moving to Man United for 50 million, like, because the media will jump on that. So I think as a player, although yes, he's probably speaking facts and just being honest, as a football player, you have got to be wary in terms of what you say. And I think
too much information.
I think in future, Hannah's got to be wary of that.
Well, thanks for coming on, Jude. It's a pleasure having you on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Cheers for the advice and everything.
We'll leave your channel link in the description. And hope you cope well through this period of uncertainty.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.